Hi, everyone. It's so good to see all of you. My name is Heath Einstein, and I serve TCU as Dean of Admission. I'm in my 9th year at TCU, and I'm so sad that we won't be able to be in India with you in January, but still excited to get to know all of you.
And then we have our two stars, our professor and our student. So Dr. Akaraju and Abir, introduce yourselves.
Hi, folks. My name is Giri Akaraju. I'm a professor and the chair of the biology department at TCU. And I've been here for 18 years. And I'm originally from Bombay. So I have the coffee mug to prove it. If it shows up. But yeah, good evening to everybody.
We didn't doubt you.
Hey guys, my name is Abir. I'm a third-year student at TCU, so obviously I have a much shorter tenure than all of these other amazing folks at TCU, but I'm originally from Mumbai, got into TCU through the Next Genius program about 3 years ago, and I'm a finance student here in the Neely School of Business, so excited to meet you all and talk more about why TCU is such a good school.
Thank you. And Heath, take it away.
Wow, I cannot believe, Abir, that you are in your third year here. We remember meeting you in Mumbai just a few years ago, and I'm excited to hear what you have to say about TCU to our wonderful students and parents who've joined us. I'd like to start by just saying a few words, give a basic overview of Texas Christian University. On the very first slide you saw, it said lead on, and that's one of the taglines here. I think if you were to ask folks around our campus, what does TCU really stand for? What are the characteristics of the university? They would probably share with you that the students who are attracted to TCU fall into one or more of these categories. One, students who are looking for bold leadership opportunities. Two, students who are craving a supportive environment. And three, a campus that is just full of spirit. And as I said, I think our students either are attracted to one of those or perhaps a combination of those qualities. We have about 9,500 undergraduate students at TCU, which by American standards makes us a medium-sized university. What is different about TCU, what I think is really distinct about us, is that almost all of the students at TCU are undergraduates. We don't have a lot of grad students here. We do have some graduate programs, but the focus here is at that baccalaureate level. And many universities that we overlap with, the schools where students may also be interested in addition to TCU, they typically, if they're in that medium size, will have many more graduate students than we have. What that means in a very practical way at TCU is you actually get to know faculty members here. Dr. Akaraju is going to be a mentor for you if you choose to study under him or under one of the many other amazing faculty who are at the university. You don't have to be a graduate student to build those sorts of relationships. That 13-to-1 student to faculty ratio means something here. We are a school that reflects diverse geographic distribution. Even though the word Texas is in our name, it's not like the majority of students come from the state of Texas. In every first year class, roughly 45% of the students are from the state of Texas, which means the majority of incoming students at the first year level are coming from outside the state or even outside the United States. So we have a wonderfully diverse mix of students as well. That retention rate that we put up there, it says 91%. Actually, it's 91.7% for this most recent class. We're going to update that slide, but we don't want to give ourselves too much credit, so we rounded down. It's a good symbol of the degree of satisfaction that students have with their institution. The fact that 92% of students are persisting between their first and second year is a really strong indication. And if you were to compare us to other institutions, that's a very healthy number. So you're coming to a school where you're going to get to know faculty well and build relationships very well. As we move to the next slide, one of the, I think, immediate questions that students have about TCU is, what does the C in TCU stand for? Obviously, it stands for Christian, Texas Christian University. But to understand what that means requires a bit of understanding of our founding. So we were founded, as you can see here, in 1873 by two ministers of the Christian Church Disciples of Christ, which is a fairly small Protestant denomination. And what you need to know about the disciples is that it's a faith that believes very strongly in faith with reason. That is, you don't just accept ideas at face value, but only through thorough investigation do we arrive at some greater truth, which is really akin to what happens here in an academic way as well. The other thing about the disciples is they don't believe there is necessarily one direct path. That is, it's an ecumenical faith. And for that reason, we have dozens of different faith communities represented on our campus. And I can tell you, as somebody who is not Christian, I feel very comfortable at TCU. I've never once felt like someone is telling me I have to believe a certain way. It's a university where students feel like their religious viewpoints are respected. Whatever your practices will be accepted. And if you choose not to practice religion, that will be accepted too. There is no requirement that students sign any sort of statement of faith. What is required is that you respect others' religious viewpoints, and every student is required to take one course in a religious tradition as part of the core curriculum. What that tradition is entirely up to you. So students may choose to take a course in Christianity, or they might take a course in Caribbean religions, for example, and that would satisfy our religion requirement as part of the core curriculum. One of the things that really distinguishes us, I think, again, is the size of the institution, that we're able to balance being a school that in some ways treats students as if they're in a smaller environment where the students build relationships with each other and with faculty in a real sort of family feel. And yet we offer the resources that you're going to find at a large research university. So you can see a nearly $2 billion endowment, opportunities for research. Gary, I'm sure, is going to talk a little bit about research that he does with undergraduate students in his lab. And so again, you can get that even as early as your first year at TCU, you can tap into those resources. You see on this side that we're the smallest member of, you see that the Roman numerals XII. We are part of the Big 12 Athletic Conference. College athletics is very big here in the United States, and TCU plays in one of the largest and most prominent athletic conferences. And yet we are by far the smallest of the schools that play in our athletic conference. By the way, you might notice there are 10 schools in the Big 12. That's confusing, and there is no logical reason why it's called that. So we'll skip over that for now. It's not that we don't know how to count here, though. I will assure you of that. At any rate, we play football, as you can see here, which is American football is a very big deal in the US. If you don't follow football, that's okay. We teach our international students all the rules of the game. So you're going to be able to come to the stadium with 50,000 people, and it's going to be just a dynamic experience. By the way, I just read this morning that there is going to be a cricket stadium here in North Texas, in Grand Prairie. This just was announced yesterday. I don't know if anyone saw this, but like the first major cricket venue in the United States is going to be just a very short drive from our campus, which is really cool. Anyway, so athletics are a big deal. But it's not the only thing about TCU. And I think some people, if they don't know a whole lot, they might think about football, but there's a lot of activity here. And while these pictures were not taken during the COVID crisis, so we are maintaining social distance here, we do want to present a view to you of what life will be like in a post-COVID environment when you arrive at TCU, and there's a lot of activity here. So Abir, I kind of wanted to ask you about what sorts of campus activities you've become involved in your 2+ years here at TCU.
Yeah, definitely. So I think, like Heath mentioned, I think before COVID, I think it used to be like it still is a very fun campus. TCU's adapted very well, but before COVID took place, we had like concerts, we had other fun activities, like Heath mentioned, the college game day is like a very big thing here. Football, even if you like don't know it when you first come here, I think it's a very fun sport to kind of follow up with all the complexities and so on and so forth. So I think football was something that I always used to look forward to. I still follow it up very well. And I think TCU's football team has been historically very strong. So that's a campus activity that I love to be a part of. I think in addition to that, I'm also a part of the International Student Association on campus, which organizes fun like food events, cultural events, as well as other like formals, which are basically kind of like the socials or the proms that you would have like in high school. So I think that all of that is also really fun. And I think in addition to that, another thing that I really like being a part of is there's a business honors program in the Neely School of Business, which is really interesting because I think that kind of integrates both the campus side of things, but also the academic side of things, where Heath mentioned about the close faculty-student relationship, as well as the opportunity to take on different like leadership development positions and so on and so forth. So I think all of those things is something that really take up a majority of my time on campus here. And I think that's everything that's definitely contributed to my growth and success as a student here at TCU.
Thank you. That's great. Well, let's transition then into the academic portion. TCU is broken up into 9 different colleges, 8 of which are degree granting colleges. You see the one in the middle is our honors college. That's for our most outstanding students. And any student can be part of the honors college while simultaneously enrolled in one of the other colleges. We have about 130 different academic programs here at TCU. Pretty much anything you can think of, we offer. The most prominent of our programs include the Neely School of Business, which is where Abir is enrolled. We have a program that is consistently ranked in the top 25 undergraduate business programs in the United States. And then the College of Science and Engineering, where Dr. Akaraju is faculty. That is a popular and prominent and well-respected program as well. And so Giri, I want to throw it over to you. Can you talk about the academic experience at TCU from your perspective, and then some of your experiences working directly with students?
Yeah, thank you. I just realized I dated myself by calling it Bombay, but that's how long ago I left the city, and they changed the name after I left. It maybe reflects what they thought of me. Like I said, I've been at TCU for 18 years. And I've been the chair of the department for a year and a half now. And in the biology department, we kind of pride ourselves on something called rigor. Now, rigor is a word that professors like, but students generally don't like. It generally means hard classes. And we think that we deliver a really good education to our majors. And this is reflected in what they come back and tell us when they go into graduate school, for example. So a lot of our students go to medical school or dental school or go on to PhD programs, and they will write back to us very kindly, I think, and tell us how they appreciate the foundation we've given them. So our courses are extremely rigorous, and I think we prepare our students really well for whatever they want to go on and do after they graduate from TCU. In terms of our department, we also pride ourselves on the number of students who are involved in research. So we have about 12 tenure track faculty who have their own research labs. And so as tenure track faculty, we are expected to do research and we are expected to publish our work. And as faculty, of course, we don't work in our labs necessarily ourselves. So all the work is done by students. So we have a pretty high number of students who work in our lab. So currently about 40% of biology majors work in our labs. And these are usually juniors and seniors. And by working in our labs, basically they do research projects. And because we're small enough, we can actually take undergraduates in our lab. Now, this is not very common in most universities where graduate students are recruited to do research. But because of our size and because of how many undergraduate students we have and the exceptional quality of students we get, we can have them work in our labs. And the advantage of that, of course, is the research experience. It's a one-on-one kind of instruction with a professor. So it's almost like having a class of just one student. So you get extremely high quality training of how to be a scientist, basically. But also more importantly, students oftentimes will get to go and present their work at conferences, which the department supports. And many of our students will publish their work, which is also extremely rare for undergraduate students. And this looks great on your resume or your CV when you're applying to graduate schools. So that's one unique thing about TCU that I want you guys to take away from this, is that the one-on-one experience you will get and the opportunity to do research.
Dr. Akaraju, could you, there was also a question in the chat about engineering. Can you just, and maybe the facilities and faculty, can you share just a little bit about the science and engineering in general?
Yeah.
As well as engineering?
Yeah, so as the biology department, we belong to the College of Science and Engineering. And in addition to the normal basic science disciplines like physics, chemistry, biology, psychology, we also have computer science, we have engineering, and we have an extremely good engineering program. So I recommend you look up how it's ranked. It's a general engineering program, which means that you can't specialize necessarily in mechanical engineering or chemical engineering that you would at other schools. But they're beginning to develop an interdisciplinary studies program where you can craft some specialties, including in engineering. So that's something you should definitely check out. Like most engineering colleges, our students have a pretty intense course load for training, but this just basically means that when they come out on the other side, they are recruited pretty heavily, and we never have problems having an engineering student find jobs. Unlike most engineering schools, they have a final year project that they work on in groups, where we have collaborations with a lot of industries around Fort Worth. Again, because we're a small town, we have really good relationships with companies in town. So the engineering school solicits projects from these companies. So these are real world projects that these companies say, hey, we want to figure this out. Can you do it for us? And then engineering students work in small groups to address those problems. And you may know that in the Fort Worth area, oil is a big business. So drilling and engineering problems related to that. And then we have a very large manufacturer of planes for the Air Force called Lockheed Martin. So the engineering college also has close relationships with them. So you get to work on real world problems as well, which again is very useful when you're looking for jobs after you graduate.
Thanks so much, Giri. We had a question in the chat asking about research opportunities in other fields too, such as the Adran College of Liberal Arts. And what Dr. Akaraju is describing really can be applied to all of our undergraduate programs, even in the Liberal Arts College. So for example, in the Department of History, just this past spring, one of our faculty members led a project where undergraduate students were writing entries to the Handbook of Texas, which is a digital encyclopedia platform that students and teachers in the state of Texas can access. So now those TCU students are essentially published researchers through the work directly with their faculty. So again, across the entire spectrum of the university, you're going to find research opportunities. Abir, I know there was a question also in the chat about business. Can you maybe describe what your experience has been like as a business student and what the curriculum design has been and so forth?
Yeah, definitely. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Neely School of Business might be the biggest school on campus in terms of the number of students. And I think we have about 600 to 700 students that enter into Neely every year. So I think that, like the engineering school, we do have like certain concentrations here. So you have finance, marketing, supply chain, business information systems, entrepreneurship, and I think there's a couple of others as well. But the way it works is you take a core business curriculum class, a couple of them in your freshman year and like early in your sophomore year, and after that you kind of apply to enter the Neely School of Business. So before that, you're pre-business. And along the way, you have the opportunity as high-performing students to apply to a couple of different programs, such as the Neely Fellows program that I'm a part of, as well as the Neely Leadership program, which is another similar program which concentrates on your leadership development. And you also have other clubs and activities that are specific to the Neely School of Business. So I think you have the Entrepreneurship Club, you have the Financial Management Association, Women in Business Organization, as well as a American Marketing Association club on campus. So I think it's a very holistic development, right? You can participate in class, but you can also participate outside classes through these different leadership roles at these clubs. So I was a part of the Entrepreneurship Club my freshman and sophomore year. And I think in addition to that, what's also unique is, like the rest of the university, you get to pursue research opportunities inside the business school as well, which you would not expect just because, business isn't something that one thinks about research in. But I think that's also really interesting. And like you have like Dr. Akaraju was talking about, you can also partner with different companies. So there's a company called TPH, which is a really big energy advisory company that students in their junior year can kind of partner with on a research project, which also looks really good on your resume as well. And I think finally, something else that really stood out to me about the Neely School of Business was how closely connected the alumni was. I just got an internship for next summer, and I think the TCU alumni played a really big role in helping me get that internship. I think the company that I will be working for hires only about 3 to 4 interns every year, and there are applicants upwards of like 500 to 600 applicants for those 3 to 4 positions. So I think it's really competitive, but TCU and the business school has played like a huge role in me getting that internship. So I think I've really enjoyed my journey so far and would highly recommend the business school.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing your experience with everyone. All right, Karen, you're going to talk about admission. You're on mute.
So yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed listening to all of you talk. So now the exciting topic of admission. Students, I know you're working on your applications now, I hope. And you can fill out the common application if you would like. I think that's what most of you are doing. But this pie chart that you see, there are no numbers assigned to the slices of the pie because this is an approximate view of how we look at your application. We definitely, like a lot of liberal arts colleges, will look at, use the holistic review process where we're looking at the whole student, the whole person. But of course, the most important aspect of your application would be your academics. So we like to see that you've had, strong marks on your standard 10 boards or whatever curriculum that you've been in. And hopefully you're doing well, proceeding to standard 12 boards soon. But we're also going to look at, the more personal side, what makes each of you special. And it's going to be different for every one of you. For some of you, you wrote the most amazing essay and it made us laugh or made us cry or made us think. For others of you, maybe what stands out would be your leadership roles in school, or maybe how your teachers talk about you. So all of those things are going to be considered as we look at your application. Here are a few numbers, and the GPA you see here is on a US 4-point scale. So you can see, we're looking for strong students with strong marks, and then test score. These are our middle 50% scoring ranges on the SAT and ACT. But you may have heard that TCU is SAT, ACT optional this year. So if you have your scores and you would like to present them, if you think, they look good, if they're, in our range or even above our middle 50% range, you're certainly welcome to submit them. We have adopted what's called a do no harm policy. So if you do submit your SATs, we'll consider them, but as we're reviewing your application, if it looks like your SATs will not help you, then we won't use them. On the other hand, if we look at your scores and compare that with your marks in school and your personal qualities, and we think, that SAT score might actually advantage the application, then we're going to use it. If English is not your native language, we will need some kind of test. But if you've been in an English-speaking curriculum, we can waive the English testing. If you're not in an English-speaking curriculum, then we would need either SAT, TOEFL, IELTS, Duolingo. Just a little bit of information, as you know, because you're part of Next Genius, we do have some full tuition scholarships. We do consider your financial need, but because you've been selected for Next Genius, we're going to look at read your application regardless of your financial situation. So we do award up to $51,570 per year, and the total cost of attendance is about $72,000. US. So don't let those numbers scare you. Next Genius is also going to guide you and help families if they might want to secure a small loan. I also wanted to let you know that in the past years, we've been able to yield 5 or 6 students each year from Next Genius. So not just the one who gets that big, what we call the Chancellor Scholarship, which Abir was our first recipient of, because there could be a number of students who get almost that same value. So realize we're going to try to make this affordable for, as many of you as we possibly can. I just wanted to wrap up with a little bit of information. Abir talked about his scholarship. I wanted to mention that we do have some internship scholarships, which are dedicated to students who want to do summer internships that are unpaid. A few years ago, we noticed our numbers were dropping a bit in terms of the students doing internships in their field, and they were reporting, my parents really wanted me to get a paid job in the summer to help with expenses. And so our response to that was, okay, then we're going to create a scholarship pool. So the majority of our students do get some sort of internship scholarship or internship opportunities while they're at TCU. And certainly, we've talked about research opportunities as well. So all of these things are really going to advantage you when you start looking for your first job or trying to apply for graduate school. We do have career advisors in every academic college at TCU. I wanted to throw it back to Abir for just a second, because I'm amazed at how competitive that internship was, and he felt like he got that support. But tell the group, Abir, where your internship is next summer, because oddly enough, it's not in Fort Worth.
Yeah, so I'll be interning with a bank called Jefferies in Houston. I'll be working in their energy investment banking group. And as Dr. Akaraju had mentioned, in Texas, a lot of things is about oil and gas and energy. So Houston's kind of the global capital of energy. And as you could guess, the energy investment banking scene would be in Houston. So Jefferies is actually one of the top banks for energy investment banking down in Houston. And I think, like I touched upon earlier, the career services center at TCU and in the Needy School of Business was just exceptional. They developed this special program for students who are interested in investment banking called the Tip Board program, where they basically paired you with mentors who work in investment banking across the US and in Houston. So when I applied to Jefferies, three of the alumni who worked there were really helpful in like getting on the phone with me and just speaking with me and just kind of giving me insight into how the company operated and what they were looking for in candidates and so on and so forth. And then what was interesting was I had like a first round interview, and then after that I got the invite to the super day, right? So I just sent out thank you emails to all these three people just to let them know that I had a great experience and just wanted to thank them again, and didn't ask them for anything. But one of the alumni actually replied to me, and he was like, hey, if you want to jump on a phone call before your final round just to like kind of go through things, we could do that. And obviously I took him up on the offer, but just that proactivity on the part of the alumni to like actually help you is something that I think is really unique to TCU, because that close spirit that is developed through your time at TCU really translates later on when you're searching for internships or full-time offers once you're about to graduate and so on and so forth. So TCU definitely played a very big role in getting that internship.
And, Abir, you made me think of something, talking about the alumni giving back, and TCU, and Heath touched on this earlier, that it's a very supportive environment. It's a very giving environment. And I think that's just the culture here, that, we support each other, we help each other. It's not just, your professors helping you, but it's this is the TCU way. And I know when Abir graduates and he has a great job somewhere, who knows, maybe in Mumbai or maybe in New York, I don't know, but he's going to do the same. He's going to give back, because that's how he's learned, that's how he's developed. And so I know I'm counting on you. And the very last thing that I wanted to mention is just our relationship with the city of Fort Worth, the fact that we're here. It's now, as of very recently, I think a couple of days ago, I learned that TCU, or Fort Worth, is now the 12th largest city in the United States. And we're part of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, which is the 4th largest metro area in the US, behind New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. So this, while Fort Worth itself is a little smaller than Dallas, which I love, because it has all the big city opportunities, but not some of the big city headaches. So it's very friendly, relaxed, easy to get around. From TCU, you're just about 10 minutes from the main entertainment areas if you want to leave campus, because there's lots of fun things to do here. You can fly direct from London or Qatar or wherever you're going to fly through. So it's a fairly, in the scheme of things, a fairly easy place to get to. And so, I just love the environment in TCU. And, I think you find people all around the community who support the university. And that's a great feeling when you're around town. You see a lot of purple. You see a lot of purple, here on the screen. Necklace, horn frog earrings, you can't see those. So I wanted to address a couple of the other questions in the chat. So there's been some questions about A-levels. So the general paper, that alone does not meet English proficiency, but if your curriculum has been in English, which I'm sure it has, then you will be okay. There's a question about how do we calculate GPA? And first of all, let me tell you, we don't necessarily try to convert your GPA into the US scale. I gave you the GPA as an example, but to answer that question, an A on A levels is an A in the US, or 4-point. A B on A levels, we also consider to be an A on the US scale. And I think a C on A levels is a B on the US scale, for that matter. And there's been some questions about SATs. We will consider the December SAT, no worries. I know it looks like in Mumbai, it's already been canceled. Somebody has reported. So that's part of the reason why we're test optional this year. That just confirms our decision to go that way. But don't really worry about converting your grades to a GPA. And let me see, the one other question from Vijaya. Oh, so Vijaya, you met the November 1st deadline. I believe Next Genius has asked us to hold off on reviewing those applications so that we can review them with all the Next Genius applicants. So instead of hearing from us in the, in late December, you'll actually get your admission notice during the Next Genius interview weekend in January. And I think we've hit most of the questions. Oh, one other one, CBSE students, do you need to give IELTS or TOEFL? No, as long as your curriculum has been in English, which I believe it has.
Karen, there was a couple questions about our Global Scholars Program, so I wanted to address that. It's a new program that we just launched, just announced over the summer, and just launched it here in the fall semester. It is a 4-year cohort program. Students apply for it, and essentially there are 4 elements to it. There's a curricular element, so the students will have some coursework together. There's a co-curricular element as well. So there'll be students doing activities on a global level outside the classroom. So that could be hearing from a global dignitary who comes to speak to one of our a group of our students in the program. There's a mentorship program. And then there's a travel component as well. So students in the Global Scholars Program also will study abroad. Many of our students study abroad anyway. That's a big part of the TCU experience. But that's a sort of built into this Global Scholars Program. So we just had our first cohort announced within the last month or two. So we're really, really excited to see this launch. And again, fits really well into the DNA of the university, because if you read the mission of TCU, there's this concept of global citizenship that is baked into it. So thanks for your interest in that, and we're excited about it.
You mentioned study abroad. Gary, you have taken some study abroad trips, and I want to make sure you all know that even as international students, you are able to do a study abroad program while you're at TCU. Gary, can you mention some of the things you've done?
Yeah, certainly. We have a couple of different types of study abroad. We have the semester study abroads, where students go and live in another city and take classes at the university there. And then we have the short-term study abroads that are like 3 weeks long, where students, usually over the summer or winter breaks, where students go to places. So for example, in biology, we have a study abroad in Africa, where we take students to the country of Rwanda, which is a beautiful country that is up and coming. I call it the Switzerland of Africa, partly because of the terrain and also partly because of the people who are there. And when in Rwanda, students get to visit hospitals and look at the healthcare system in Rwanda and compare it to what they know about the healthcare system in the US. And of course, they also get to engage culturally with Rwandan culture, which is a big part of most of our study abroad programs. A lot of our students in biology go and take study abroad in Spain, for example, because a lot of them are also double majoring or minoring in Spanish. And usually when they're abroad, they take language classes, but many of our students will also take biology classes to keep moving along with their degrees. So the Honors College offers some really good, interesting trips, many of them to Europe. So if you guys get to enroll in the Honors College, that's something you can avail of as well.
Thank you. I noticed earlier there was somebody also mentioned nursing, the nursing faculty and facilities. So we didn't touch on that, but that is actually a phenomenal program at TCU. And actually, two of my nieces graduated from nursing, and the facilities are just out of this world. We really have one of the top, I think, simulation labs in the country that really simulates a real hospital. So if you are interested in nursing, that is a competitive program, but we'd love to see your application. And the hospital district is quite close to TCU for doing those clinical rotations. There was a question about political science and study abroad specifically. I know I wanted to mention a couple things. This isn't an abroad program, but we have a Washington, D.C. internship, which is a great opportunity for political science majors, where you spend a semester in Washington, in our nation's capital, working with a company. There are lots of organizations in DC that we partner with and we place students at. So that's just great experience for political science students. We do have an active Model United Nations, in case any of you are involved in that in India. So you can continue that at TCU. And I don't know of any specific study abroad programs for political science, but you can go, literally anywhere, I think, and get some experience. Heath, do you know of anything specific to political science?
Yeah, there are a couple of summer abroad short-term programs that are attached to specific political science courses. So for example, you could do a course over the summer and then have a 2-week abroad experience in China. We have political science students who do that. There's another program course that takes students to parts of Eastern Europe. So the Czech Republic and Hungary and some other places. And there's even one in New Delhi, of all places. So yeah, opportunities as a cohort of political science students to go abroad.
See, I'm learning on this session. And the one in China, I believe that's led by Dr. Carrie Liu, who's just super great. She specializes in Asian politics. And so we have like Dr. Daraj, who specializes in Middle Eastern politics, and so specialists in all areas. Vijaya, just to answer your question, yes, the admission decision and scholarship decision will both be in January. I believe, Davika, that is what you all have directed. Is that correct?
Yes, definitely.
Thank you. Any other questions or any other comments that anybody has? Abir, what did you not tell us that or tell the group that you would like to share? Anything? Why do you love it? Why do you love TCU?
Honestly, I think it's just the whole student atmosphere, right? I think the campus is really beautiful, and I think the campus itself is supposed to be very highly ranked for its beauty and how it's laid out. And what was interesting was the other day, one of my friends was coming to visit her brother in Fort Worth, and so I invited both of them to come see TCU, and both of them really, really liked TCU's campus and just the facilities and stuff. So I showed them the schools and the stadium and so on and so forth. And I think they really liked it. What was also interesting was when my dad had come to drop me off, he had also specifically made a comment about how much he really liked the campus as well. And I think that's something that might be a little underappreciated just because you're not able to come visit the campus before you apply to TCU. So I think that's something that I wanted to point out as to how nice the campus is. And I think we have this beautiful commons area where you have the frog fountain and a couple of other residence halls and so on and so forth. And I think that's very interesting too, because of COVID, we ended up putting like sofas and other seats in the commons itself, and you now have like a big screen in the commons where we show movies, I think, during the week, and there are other fun activities. I think yesterday we had the falling in like light and fall, or some event like that, where it was basically like a Christmas celebration event, and there were other fun activities as well. So I think the campus itself and the interactive activities on campus is something that really makes me fall in love with TCU again and again.
Thanks. And could you just touch on, because there's a question in the chat, Davika, can we go just a couple more minutes?
Yes, sure. We can go on for 2-3 minutes more.
Just then, there's a question about the Honors College. Abir, you want to handle that one?
Yeah, definitely. So I think the honors college is kind of generalist in nature. You don't need to be in a particular major to be in the honors college. You can be a computer science student and be in an honors college, and I'm a finance student and I'm in the honors college. So I think you have two types of honors. I think you have like three types of honors classes. So one would be like your lower division honors classes, where you're taking classes in philosophy or history or geography. I'm in a European history class right now, which is really interesting, where we get to learn about different countries. The second type of class would be major specific honors class. So I'm in the business honors program, and that's why I end up taking classes like financial management and marketing and so on and so forth in the honors section of those particular classes. And finally, you have the upper level honors courses, which are then again split into two parts. So you have the colloquias, which are specific courses, which are obviously designed to be honors courses, where you would take a class on something like happiness or so on and so forth. Or you could also pursue departmental honors, where you're basically pursuing a research project in your specific major. So that could be really helpful for your resume, as well as for applying to graduate programs and other PhD programs. So I think for high achieving students, the honors college definitely gives you that accessibility to professors, as well as another thing that was really underappreciated for the honors college is the ability to enroll earlier than the other non-honor students, which gives you the ability to get into the best classes with the best professors and so on and so forth. So I would say I really like my experience in the honors college. And I think there was one other question about the office hours and how easy it is to get into touch with the professors. I think again, like, it's a very small university for, like, in terms of like the number of students for each faculty. So I would say it's extremely easy to get in touch with professors, and not just professors who you are taking classes with. For example, there was this one class I was interested in the next semester, and I wanted to talk to someone about it. So I actually ended up reaching out to the department chair of finance, which at a big university it would be like very difficult to get in touch with, just because they have like a lot of things that they have to do, which I'm sure like our Department of Finance chair has to do as well. But that accessibility that you have to get on the phone with people when you want to ask something is something that's, I think, very unique to a school like TCU, and obviously something that I really appreciate as I learn more through my education at TCU.
Thanks. And there is a question on the application about honors. So if it says, are you interested in honors, yes or no? So if you check that box, yes, then we will send you a supplemental application that has a couple of additional questions. Gary, just real quick, somebody wanted to know, is AP math necessary or helpful for biology or biochemistry majors?
It's I just emailed them or chatted back and said it's not.
Oh, you did. Oh, okay, got it.
So it's not required for admissions. I mean, we do require a math course once you come to TCU as part of the graduation requirements, but it's not a prerequisite.
Okay. Thank you. Well, I've enjoyed this so much. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. Always good to see you, Abir and Gary.
Yes,
actually, I'm so sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, so there were 2-3 students who were interested to know if they could get Professor Akaraju's email address.
Yeah, I'll type it in here, but if you go to the TCU biology department, I'm fairly easy to find. I'm the only Indian professor. but I have put my email in the chat as well. But yeah, we have a really nice website, and all the websites in the College of Science and Engineering are really nice. So if you guys are interested, there's a lot of useful information in addition to what we've told you today. So if you forget something, go check out our websites. They're really good.
And Abir, tell your dad that we're going to ask him to participate in the interview weekend again, because that's been super helpful. I think last year, well, and the year before, I guess, where, Abir's dad, spent a good amount of time just talking to parents about the experience. And he's very, honest, about the university, from a parent perspective. And so for parents on the call, I hope you'll enjoy that.
All right. So somebody just asked if we could get the recording of the session. Yes, we will definitely post the recording of the session on the WhatsApp group.
Okay. Well, I guess our time has come to an end. But you all, we've got your contact information, and we'll be talking to you. I guess I should type my email in here as well. I'll be the one of the main people reading your applications, and the dean Heath will also be reading your application, but direct any questions to me that you have if we didn't get to everything. Oh, and thank you, Dr. Akaraju and Abir. You, like I said earlier, you are our stars, and we just so appreciate you all participating.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. And for all the students, potential students out there, email me. It's always good to reach out to someone specific to get your questions answered. So I look forward to you guys emailing me.
Definitely. Thank you for inviting me as well. And if any of you want like further student experiences, feel free to contact me as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Karen, Heath, Professor Akaraju, and our superstar Abir. Thank you so much once again for this great session, and we look forward to communicating more in the future, and the recording of the session will definitely be shared with all the students. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a great evening.
Bye. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.